and welcome to Entrepreneur Masterclass TV. I'm your host, Lea Woodford, and with me today is an amazing guest, Kristi DeWitt. Now, Kristi is a mindset and sales expert. Welcome to the show, Kristi.
Thank you so much, Lea. Great to be here.
Well, I love this because you're a mindset expert, but you're also a sales expert. Those two kind of go hand in hand. Can we talk about that today?
Oh, 100%. So as you know, mindset is pretty much everything. And how you judge your success, whatever you define that at, is really set by your mindset. If you think you're going to be great at sales and you're going to kill it, you're right. If you think you're going to kind of suck at sales, well, guess what? You're right.
So Kristi, how did you get started? I want to know the backstory.
Oh my gosh. So I started very young. I was a dealer. I sold Girl Scout cookies. A lot of Girl Scout cookies. I loved it. And I laugh because I look back on it. Oh my gosh, cash for cookies. And I loved it. I got the sales fever right away. And those people who are in sales, the fever. You're like, oh my gosh, this is pretty cool. So fast forward, I worked at Nordstrom actually for about 9 years. Starting when I was 13, I was probably one of the youngest employees there ever.
I think you were the youngest employee.
I think I was. There weren't child labor laws back then. So I really got into it that way, and that's a lot of my sales training came from that. And in addition, my parents were very into positive mental mindset. The Zig Ziglar books, Norman Vincent Peale. So I learned a lot of that, sent myself to positive mental attitude camp in Michigan from Alaska. And that's where I gained a lot of my skills. So from a very young age, I was able to combine mindset and sales together, which really has served me to this day.
Yeah, but most people are intimidated by sales. I hear this all the time. Oh my God, I hate sales. It feels icky. It feels salesy. Can we unpack that a little bit?
Sales has gotten a bad rep for so many years. And what people don't realize is, when you're young, you get that mindset locked in. You get these ideas that it's all about, the used car salesman. Hey, I've met a lot of used car salesmen actually that are pretty good. And you get this preconceived idea that it's a slimy thing, that, sales. In so many organizations, sales are like, those salespeople. Well, guess what? Everybody needs sales. If you are in business, you have to have an aspect of sales, whether you're a one-person shop or you're a 10-person company or you're a 1,000-person company. It all starts with a product plus sales. You got to be able to move that. And you and I talked a little bit about sales is everywhere and it's everything. Every day, whether you think of yourself as a salesperson or not, you're selling. You're selling to your family on what you're going to have for dinner. You're selling to your spouse on where you're going to go. You're selling to your kids. You're selling to your friends. It's about meeting a need, having a discussion, and then deciding to take on something.
Well, so Kristi, how can companies train their salespeople? I think that's the million-dollar question. How do we train somebody, myself included? I've hired people, and we pay them their base salary and commission, and they don't sell anything.
Yeah. Just because you pay them that way doesn't mean it's going to happen, right?
Right.
So there's got to be some good guidance, some good baseline. And again, it all comes back to that mindset. Now, I could teach somebody some basics. Here's a 3-option close. Having a conversation to really, and this is actually really important, having a conversation with the client, seeing what their needs are, and that your product truly meets that. So it's good to have, listening skills, because they will tell you everything they're looking for, so you can correlate that to the product or the service that you're selling. But again, a big part of that is mindset and understanding that the energy you put out is the energy that client will pick up.
Absolutely. And I've heard that you should do less talking when you're selling.
Yes. And is that classic, the last person who talks wins? Well, I don't think that it's winning, but really listening. I've been on team meetings where we've come to pitch to a client who needs our service. And I could hear within the first 2 minutes that somebody they'd already bought, they already sold. but the team didn't know it. They kept going on and talking about how great they were. I'm like, no. What you talk about is the benefit to the client that your product offers, but you got to listen and see where they are and what their doubts or their objectives are, and then you have to fill them in. You have to educate them, and education is really what sales is.
Oh, very true. Now, can we talk a little bit about the buyer's journey?
The buyer's journey, and what aspect are you starting from?
Well, I think our viewing audience might want to know what a buyer's journey is.
Okay, so buyer's journey is something that, and a lot of it has to do with establishing a relationship too, right? And we've talked before about trust. And, we also talked about pitch slapping with a P. We'll get to that. But a journey would be, this is something I'm looking for. You look at different options. You come to a company and they start talking to you about their product. Some people do research. Some people just jump right in if they have some sort of if this company or this person has a reputation. And a lot of times what they're really buying is you, right?
And most of the time, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. They really are. And I think it's interesting when somebody sells a business and then the new owner doesn't understand why all those customers don't come scurrying in. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because they bought the person. They bought that person, that expertise.
Okay, now this has happened to me when I was in sales years ago, and it's happened to my son as well. And it continues to happen years later. Why do corporations have their top salespeople go out, make the sales, get those big accounts, and then put them in an awful territory and put somebody new in there to manage these customers that they've worked years to do? I mean, that's a kiss of death, in my opinion.
Yes, it really is. And there's a lot of aspects to that. We could do an hour on that alone. But it's a lot of times too that veteran salesperson already established those relationships. Now they're starting out from scratch, and it takes a while to build that up. And it's almost like you're putting somebody in an easy path because it must have been easy. Yeah, not so much. They did a lot of relationship building, like this buyer's journey we talked about. They did that relationship journey, or the relationship building, to be able to get it to that point. So, have that new salesperson shadow this person, have them understand their techniques, have them learn what worked. I think that would be key.
Well, me being the salesperson who cultivated those relationships, I really resented them giving my territory that I worked years to build and give it to somebody else, and then put me in an awful territory and expect me to do the same thing. That's why I became an entrepreneur, because it happened over and over again, and they're still doing that today.
Well, and a lot of salespeople jump to being entrepreneurs because they feel that same way. And, it's a very complex thing. And also we have organizations that say, okay, if you reach this goal, what about this goal? What about this goal? Now, I believe in stretch goals. I fully do, but not to the point where it kills your salesperson and their motivation. And that's huge for corporations to understand that. Work with your salespeople to see what's truly going on. And actually, I had something come up not too long ago that there was a sales block in a certain category. And everybody thought there was one reason why this was happening, only one reason, because of the competition. And we actually got some brains together and, oh my gosh, came up with 30 different solutions. 30.
Wow.
Because there were different perspectives and different viewpoints. Because you can't be the Lone Ranger all the time. And so many salespeople are the Lone Ranger. Only I can do it. Only I know this. I know everything. Give yourself a break and help yourself out and get some perspective from other people in the organization, and you might find some new opportunities.
Oh, I love that. Now, can we get back to pitch slapping?
Oh, yes.
You mentioned that, and I thought, we need to talk about what is a pitch slap with a P.
All right, pitch slapping. Now, back in the day when people only were networking in person, I love that, there would be the random person that walks up to you in a networking event, shoves a card in your face, and has this weird expectation of you to instantly start to do business with them. They vomit out their pitch, and then they leave. It's like a hit and run, right? It is. Yeah. So now on LinkedIn and even on Facebook, it happens too. They'll they have some software that lets them know instantly that you're on there. Boom, they send you a pitch, and boom, they go on. What about building and cultivating a relationship? What about inviting them to your page? What about an introduction that says, hey, I see we're interested in the same thing and would love to connect. And then you start to see their post. If you post, right? Because some people, again, are like that hit and run. And they just think they're going to send you a message, it's going to happen. That's not going to happen. Again, it's connecting and building trust. That's what it's all about.
But I'm seeing a lot of that. I am seeing, especially on LinkedIn, and never used to be like that, but I mean, pretty much every connection, it's just, I'm getting whiplash with, I barely hit the accept button and boom, they're already hitting my messenger box.
Yes, and that's classic pitch slapping.
Does that ever work?
No.
So why do they do it?
I don't know. Somebody must have sold them on that idea, right?
Wow. And if you hit enough numbers, I guess they just think. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not networking. Networking is, I have a group. I have a group that I've been with actually for 20 years.
Wow.
20 years. And this is the group that, I use this real estate agent. I use this lawyer. I use this person to do my insurance. I use this person to do my accounting. I mean, that is a one-on-one, and that's 20 years of building relationships. Do you think I'm going to go onto LinkedIn and instantly jump ship? No. You've got to build those relationships and establish that trust. And again, back to that buyer's journey, that's a huge part of it. That's part of the mix.
So let's unpack that a little bit. What is the difference for a viewing audience? What's the difference between a transactional relationship and a relationship?
Right.
When it comes to the sales journey.
Yeah. So transactional relationship will be like a one-off, right? That's just your son. Think of it like the McDonald's, like the fast food. You're pulling up, you're putting your order in, you're leaving. Are you a repeat customer? You might have opportunities. That salesperson might have opportunities for a repeat customer or might have opportunities for upsell, but they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. They didn't do it. And the relationship is, hey, maybe they buy a product from you and it renews on an annual basis. Well, don't wait until the day before or a month before or even 2 months before. You have got to continue to touch base, checking in. How are things going? How can I help you? Do you have any other business needs? And guess what? Maybe this person knows somebody else that can help them. So being able to be a connector is a huge thing. And building that relationship, if you show you're vested and you're interested in them and their success, then they are more likely to stay with you and more likely to do more business with you.
That's so important. I mean, I see so many salespeople, Kristi, that the ink isn't even dried on the contract, and you don't hear from them.
Right.
You call, you schedule appointments. You never see them. They've got their check. They don't care.
Right.
How do we get better at spotting them as consumers, and as an employer, how do we make sure our employees aren't doing that?
Well. And it's working with the employees. So not policing them, but helping them with a plan. So, any successful business has a business plan. Well, how about we figure out, depending on the product and the industry, is it a touch point that you check in with them every quarter? Is it every month? You don't want to get too frequent because then it just clutters your email box and your social media. But checking in with them, and it's interesting, I had an old boss when I worked in an advertising agency that we would sign a client, she'd go, we're one day closer to losing him. All right, if we have that attitude, then you're right. How about we're going to establish this for a long-term relationship and figure out a battle plan, figure out an actual schedule, a calendar. Are there ways that your marketing communications department can help you reach out on a regular basis with some valuable information? So not just, hey, hi, checking in with you, but actually valuable information, something they can use that can help them.
Well, I don't know about you, Kristi, but with my personal clients, if I don't want to break bread with you, I probably don't want to work with you. I love working
Yes.
with people that I can actually throw my heart over the bar. How important is, they say professional boundaries, and I agree with that, but I believe that you have to really care about your customer.
I 100% agree. And you don't have to take every client. You don't have to take every client. And that is painful to hear sometimes. Because sometimes
It's also good to hear
It's also good to hear sometimes because sometimes it's not a good fit. So there are these core values. Everyone talks about core values. And there hasn't been a really good connection drawn about what that means. So if somebody has a core value that being open and honest and communicative is important to them, but somebody else is like, no, my core values are really leave me alone. I'm living on an island. I don't want to be bothered. Well, you know what? That's not going to work. You are in conflict. And somebody who's out to provide a service versus somebody who really wants just a transactional, you're not going to force them to play ball with you, right? Sometimes you got to take your ball and go home.
Wow, so important. So Kristi, what are 3 tips that a new sales professional can incorporate into their process that's going to give them results?
Great question. So I'd say, first of all, get a baseline on your skills. Where are you in that skill set? I think that's a basic part. Being able to, so I guess that's part number 1. Part number 2 is really getting a good mindset program in place. And what does that mean? That means checking in with yourself every morning, keeping your motivation high, learning how to tap into energy when you get a no. So, it's my saying, some will, some won't, some don't, move on, next, right? Learning to have that hard candy shell and understanding that rejection, they're not rejecting you. Maybe it's just not the right time or the right product for them. And also getting a mentor. That is huge. In any industry that you start in, you need to have a mentor of some sort, whether that's going online and learning some sales techniques, whether that's connecting with somebody, being part of a group program. It's hugely important, especially if you are brand new to sales.
Wow, and these skills are so important. No matter what you do, they're going to serve you in every profession.
Yes, definitely.
And especially with AI coming right now. Or actually, it's not coming, it's here.
It's here.
So you better have those skill sets. Oh, Kristi, oh my God, I could talk about this forever. This was so fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Will you come back?
Oh, 100%. Thank you so much.
Oh, God.
And thank you for selling me on coming back to the show. I appreciate it.
Well, who knew sales could be this fun?
I did.
That's where you're the professional. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been Lea Woodford with Entrepreneur Masterclass TV. Thanks for watching.